This is Rafi Cruzon, and you are tuned in to Nothing But That Sports Talk.
State's got it with numbers, 4-on-1. Brown settles for three, and hits. State has forced 17 Illinois turnovers. Make it 18. And Puff Johnson makes it a 2-point game. Not have a timeout. Penn State leads. First time since 3 to go. Harmon into the lane. Gets there. It's all. And Penn State has come back to win.
Yeah, your alma mater, Penn State, pull off another upset in college basketball. I said, welcome to this episode of Nothing But That Sports Talk. I'm Rafiq Luz. I'm alongside a Penn State Lions alum, Carmen Holland with Hoops with Carmen. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, appreciate you.
Yeah, as we talk about college basketball upsets, I don't know if you've been locked into college basketball this season, but there have been a lot of upsets going down, including Penn State, when I just mentioned, you had Ohio State taking out Purdue, and then of course Creighton took out UConn. Whether it's including that or any other upset, what intrigued you the most this past week?
I mean, last night I watched the Penn State game, and I was like at the edge of my seat at the end. I was like, oh, they're going to lose. And then they really just stuck with it the last 2 minutes. And at the very end, the last 50 seconds, they ended up, getting that steal. And then the other player missed his 2 free throws. And then they took it down, and the guy made his 3 shots when he got fouled from the 3-point line. And then, they played good defense at that very last play, and then they won. And it was so crazy because I just thought about just the college experience, because it's when they win a game like that, everyone bum rushed the court. And it's just yo, that's so college. You make a crazy shot in the NBA, you're not bum rushing the court. The fans aren't bum rushing the court, but in college, you have that capacity to bum rush the court. And it was just really cool to see Penn State pull out a win, a gritty, defensive-based win at the end, because without them playing decent defense, they wouldn't have won that game. And then obviously the luck of the opponent missing their 2 free throws, that really just, helped them with the game. They just had to play defense at the very end. So it was a great, exciting game. And I'm happy for Penn State because I know they needed to kind of, break the cycle a little bit and get back into the rankings. So it was a great game to watch. And as a Penn Stater, I was just really proud of them. I was look at them pulling out a win. It's even though obviously, they're not high favorites going into March Madness, it's just cool to see them pull out a gritty win, because those kind of wins build your character as a team. So it was cool to see.
Yeah, but careful, they can't make the tournament if they win the conference. But it's going to be difficult with Illinois and Purdue, but they just beat Illinois, and March Madness is literally like 9 days away.
Right.
I mean, seriously, and it's not as if Penn State has never made March Madness before. It's just a matter of actually getting to the Final Fours and the national championships.
Yeah, no.
They blew up some big wins. And don't sleep on them. And then that guy Ace Baldwin Jr., I interviewed him after VCU won an A-10 tournament. And he talked about how much of a thrill it was to have that tournament experience. And then after that, he transferred to Penn State, your alma mater. He brought that physical toughness and never give up attitude that most of the players at Penn State had.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I know they made it decent last year, March Madness. So it's the program keeps building and building. And it's really cool to see, because I remember when I was in school going to the games, there will be people there, but it wasn't obviously football is the biggest thing at Penn State. So basketball always takes that back seat. But I think in the years to come, they keep kind of trending and getting good players and, making it into March Madness. I think they'll get, more highly credited players and really start to build a program. So it was just exciting all around for college, for Penn State specifically. But I think when it comes to games leading up to March Madness, I think it gets, more exciting to watch. And obviously March Madness is the best time to watch college basketball. But I think that when you lead up to March, I just think it just so happens some of the best games happen. So it's been really cool to watch.
Exactly. I mean, and we're finally getting back to the college basketball that I feel that we enjoyed for the 2000s, where fans would storm the court after the team pull off a win that you never expected them to pull off, because that's when things become more unpredictable. And obviously, being at that school, please remember a moment in time where there was one moment where you were storming the court after a Penn State victory.
I don't remember like storming the court ever because when I was in school, it wasn't that long ago, but it's just I feel like we weren't that great. Like we were all right, but it wasn't like we had like a crazy like victory where like everyone was hyped up because that game was like a nail biter. Like you thought they were gonna lose and they come back in the last 50 seconds. I like feel like that's the kind of game where it's like, or like the LSU Kentucky game. No one thought LSU was going to win that game. So, and they're at home. So when they won, it's like, we're going nuts, we're going out there, because it's like, that's the unexpected win against like a high ranked team. Kentucky is just like, obviously a tailed franchise. So moments like that are just really fun. I can't pinpoint a moment where I did that, but just watching it, I was smiling. I was like, hey, like I just looked at the students. I was like, that's it. Like that had like a Penn State feel, like just knowing that building and knowing where they were. It's like kind of weird. You don't feel so removed from college. I'm like, damn, like that was me, like not so long ago. It's just like a cool thing to see.
Yeah, and that tends to happen when you're in the same conference with Ohio State, Illinois, Iowa, and a bunch of other top teams in the Big Ten, or in this case, the Big 12. Yeah, Big Ten. I know I'm saying conference right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's besides the point. I mean, they've had some good victory. I mean, they've had some good tournament appearances, and I mean, obviously during your time there, you got to witness some March Madness games. I mean, like, how do you always prepare yourself for NCAA March Madness as a not just as a Penn State a student or alum, but as like a basketball head altogether?
I just think before March Madness, I just try to see like who's in March Madness just starting out. Who do I like? Who do I think is going to be sleepers? Like, like you just think about like a bracket. Like you start to put your bracket together, like, try to hope for the best. Because usually them brackets are never like, it's like 1 in a million that like your bracket will be perfect by the end of March Madness. But I think for me, I just kind of look at the teams that are, surging when March Madness comes along. And then just look at the teams who kind of have the best top talent. But it's not always about top talent. It's about like grit, and it's about having like that it factor and like the right place at the right time. Like just like with TSU the other year. With TCU, I'm sorry, TCU. What's his name? The short guy, like the point guard that like really like made like a buzz last year. I forget his name. It begins with an M. His last name begins with an M. Anyways, I just think I look at who's surging when March Madness comes and who kind of has like an interesting program that I think might be something to look out for. That's what I do for March Madness. And I just get excited because it's always really fun because it's always basketball going on. You got NBA going on, and then you got March Madness going on. So it's like constantly like basketball. Sometimes it's like, damn, do I watch NBA or do I watch a March Madness game? Like it's kind of like you got to pick when March Madness comes. But it's really a fun problem to have because I love watching basketball at all facets. And then even the women's March Madness is legit. I'm so excited to see South Carolina and what they do for March Madness. Like I am like so hyped up for them. Like they're undefeated right now. And shout out to all Philly, man. Philly's on. So it's just exciting times.
Yeah, it's always an exciting time. And as we continue the conversation going with the Big Ten, Caitlin Clark surpassed Kelsey Plum for the all-time record in scoring for women's basketball at least. She still has to surpass Pete Maravich for the most points all time by a college basketball player. But as you see the record get broken, I mean, what are your overall thoughts about Caitlin Clark as a player throughout her college basketball career? And do you see her as WNBA ready right now?
I mean, obviously her career has been decorated. Like she has individually played amazing. And I think it's a testament to someone who she's from Iowa. She stayed home. She played for Iowa. And that really put Iowa like in the spotlight. It put them on the map. Not saying like, Iowa's not really known for a lot of things in terms of like, places to go or like things to do, but being a woman in the game in basketball, staying home and putting Iowa with that like, that look on them, that's I just think that really says a lot about her and her character because she stayed home. And I'm sure she could have went anywhere. She could have went, a lot of different places, but she decided to stay in Iowa. And that means a lot for that state. And I know those fans are really passionate about her, and rightfully so. I mean, her individual game is crazy, like how far she can shoot out, her efficiency. I know she has, some decent passing skills, but I think with Caitlin Clark passing Kelsey Plum, it's amazing. Like it's great. It's great to see the progression of women's basketball and just every year, like some of these women are just getting better and better, and the bar is going higher and higher. So, Kelsey Plum and Caitlin Clark, they're, because Caitlin's not even done yet, and she already beat the record. So I think, by the time she's done and the next phenoms are coming out, it's just going to be like that much, like, that ladder is going to keep growing and growing. It's just really great to see. So I think she's WNBA ready. I agree kind of what Cheryl said when she was saying that she knows Caitlin's going to be a good player, but she's not going to get off the clip that she gets off in college. Because it's just basic. It's like when you're in high school, when you're in college and you're playing, like sometimes you're the best player like on the floor, even against the other team. In the WNBA, everybody's great for the most part. Like, you got your superstars, and then like that level, that bar of the average is great. So I don't think she's going to get off as much. Like Sarina Ionescu, do you think that you see how much of an amazing shooter she is? She doesn't get off as many shots as she got off in college in the WNBA, because it's a different level of competitiveness. It's a different level of play. So I think she's ready, but I think with her, Iowa hasn't won anything. So I think Iowa needs to win something for her to kind of get that, okay, like leading the team to a championship vibe. Like, I think that's what's next on her kind of like checklist. Like I feel like she has nothing to prove for individual accolades, but in terms of like leading a team to a championship, having like that capacity, that's going to be big. And yes, she can't control who's on her team. She can't control who starts, or she's not the coach, but it's about that leadership and being the best player, being the number one option. You kind of had that on you, if you like it or not, that like you got to lead your team to a championship. So I think that's what's left for her. And I think leading the team to a championship, if she can, will help her in the WNBA, like be more ready.
That's a very interesting point, because she did lose a national championship last year against LSU in blowout fashion. And that wasn't even much of a contest. I mean, it looked like a contest when you see in injuries and Caitlin Clark throwing jabs in a national championship game, but if you see the final score, it was kind of a blowout. So she's going to be more hungry to try to get that national championship ring before going into the WNBA.
Right. It's just it's crazy, because this just shows you individual accolades are great, but if you want to win championships, it's not enough just to have one great solo player. It's just not enough. Jordan had help. Steph Curry had help. Everybody who wins championships has like solid, legitimate role players. And with Caitlin, she's the best thing smoking on that team. Like they had a decent center last year. You know what I mean? Like they had their second option offensively was not that bad last year, but were they at like the level that LSU was at? Like the girls that they had supporting Angel, they were balling. But the girls on Iowa, they weren't balling like the supporting cast for Angel. So it matters. So you can't say it's all her fault if they don't get to a chip, but it does matter for her in terms of her leadership. Like what kind of leader is she? Like, does she push the girls? And it sucks because it shouldn't all be on her, but that's just, heavy is the head that wears the crown. Like, you are the star player, this is your team. And hopefully your organization is surrounding you with players that can help you reach your goals. But it's all about the supporting cast. So she's great, but if she doesn't have the supporting cast behind her, she's not going to win a championship, because it doesn't matter. Like you see, Harden can drop 45, or D-Book, he dropped like 50 or what? I think he dropped like 46, and they still lost. And then one game, you can drop whatever you want to drop, but you can still lose the game. It's a team sport. It's about the defense. It's about stops. It's about timeliness. So with Caitlin, she just got to have the right people around her to step up when she's getting hot, and she got to get hot at the right time.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting point. One example is when she put up about like 40 points in the loss against Nebraska, and we're finally, and that was another upset loss that I had to touch up on. I mean, that's like literally like the days before the elusive. Like she came within 8 points shy of the elusive upset that she had, or of the score breakdown that she had, like, to surpass Kelsey Plum. But that just goes to show that if you don't have the right supporting cast when you're facing like the tougher teams, it's going to be very difficult. And then you got UConn. Paige Becker knows she's not done with college yet she wanted to come back. She missed the entire year due to injury. I mean, when she came back, she floods out for an entire year. So it's all about having a supporting cast. She may be killing it in the Big East, but if you can't bring that to March Madness, it ain't going to matter all that much.
Right. I mean, people base your legacy upon your championships, sorry to say. But there is a lot of players, NBA, WNBA, college, that don't win rings that are still highly decorated. Like AI never won a ring, but he's like considered some people's GOAT. He's my GOAT.
I see.
So, it doesn't matter. Like, rings aren't going to me, if you really love ball, rings don't make or break your legacy because, again, it's about timing. It's about who you have in your team, and that sometimes is out of your control. So obviously individual accolades matter, but it just depends on if her team has enough this year. Because she's going to be great. She's going to play how she's going to play, but having that crazy gifts of shooting, it's just needing the combo of like making other players better. You got to make your teammates better. Like you got to do what you got to do, and like you got to whatever you can bring to help the team. That's what you have to do because shooting lights out is not enough. Because if you want to win a championship, you got to figure out what can I do to make what is in front of me, the roster that we have in front of me, better.
That's a very interesting point. And I want to transition real quick because earlier this week, as you noticed, there was a press conference. I mean, you probably saw the video clip already, but Skylar Diggins-Smith and Nika Gubek had their press conference for introduction for the Seattle Storm. And that's a big deal because when Skylar Diggins-Smith, I listened to her. She said she wanted to team up with Jewel Lloyd, which makes sense because they were teammates at Notre Dame. So of course they were teammates in Notre Dame. So of course it's bound to happen. Imagine they may not be the same tier as the Aces of the Liberty, but they're at least going to build something from the bad season that they've had. And we knew the Seattle Storm wasn't going to be bad that long. And we can't forget about Kalia Copper, who got traded to the Phoenix Mercury, teaming her up with Natasha Cloud, Diane Taurasi, who's like literally 1 or 2 years away from retiring, and of course Brittany Griner. So with all that being said, do you still see this as a Liberty versus Aces 2-team race to the finals?
I think that obviously they're going to be top 2 contenders, but you got to just see how it plays out. Like I watched a press conference as well, and I think Sky was saying that she really just wants to play with Jewel, and this is Jewel's team, and then adding Nneka, who's a champion, who can play in and out. She's defensively sound. She's a leader. And then Sky's a leader and a vet. And I think the Storm were really missing that. They were missing that because Sue's gone and she was their general. She was their admiral on the floor. And she was that vet leadership. And she's won things, So, and then Stewie being gone. So they kind of had to break down all the way down the foundation again, besides having Jewel. So I think adding an experienced person like Sky and Nneka, it's great for them. I'm excited to see what they're going to do. I mean, I can't say they're going to be neck and neck with the Aces and the Liberty because they haven't played yet. But I think that they're going to be fine because I think Skylar is a great point guard. She can shoot the 3. She can defend. Nneka can play in and out. She can pass, and Jewel Lloyd can get a bucket, and so can Sky. So I think if the supporting cast can learn quickly, they're going to have some growing pains. They're going to have to figure it out. But I think if they have 2 strong vets and then an up and coming star Jewel Lloyd, and if everyone else can kind of just play their role and be defensively sound, I think they can compete because obviously the Aces now have back-to-back championships. They have that experience. They have players who know what it's like to get to a championship. It's hard back-to-back. And then you have an all-star, crazy in the league, Asia Wilson, Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum. So Jackie Young. And then you got the Liberty, they got Jonquel coming back, Sabrina coming back, so Stewie. So I think with the Liberty, they're going to learn from what they did last year, the mistakes that they made, what they need to focus on, not just understanding that running and gunning isn't always going to do it. You got to have sound defense, kind of just figuring out the way they want to work and how they can share the ball better. And the Aces, they kind of got a formula. They won back-to-back. I mean, it's the proof is in the pudding. So I think with the Storm, I think they're going to make an interesting run because they have veteran leadership and they have Nneka, who's won something. Skylar, who's won something. Because Skylar won with the Mercury, right? She was on that team. Or was she not?
I think she didn't win that championship.
She wasn't.
But they lost to Chicago Sky.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So it's going to be created with remember that moment where Kalia Copper was staring down at Sophie Cunningham and I believe it was against 1 or 2.
Right, yeah, I remember. Okay, yeah, so she hasn't won anything, but she won in college, so she still has some championship experience. And then Jewel Lloyd is hungry, and I think that it's going to be an interesting dynamic. I'm excited to see like what they do. It's just all yet to be seen. Like you can't say are they not going to be neck and neck. They might come out and be neck and neck with the like Aces and the Liberty. They might be right there, or the Mercury might be right there. I mean, they got Taurasi. They got Copper, they got Cloud, they got Griner. So who knows? I just think it's all about chemistry, and it's all about like working cohesively. And I think the Storm had more of a chance to be more cohesive because they brought in pieces they legit needed. Like it wasn't like it was additions, like they needed those pieces. So I think the Storm will probably fare better than maybe the Mercury because they have dogs on their team, but like I feel like they kind of are going to have like identity crisis a little bit. I think the Storm, they just been through stuff and they just want to win. Like that's what they were talking about. Like that's their culture. They have a winning culture. Sue Bird's gone now. So they kind of have to really just step up into a new era of Storm basketball. And one point I just want to say, I thought it was interesting that, NECA and Sky were saying that like they're a big draw for them was like the facilities. Like they were like, yo, we have our own facilities. Like we don't have to share facilities with nobody. I'm like, damn, like that sucks. That like that's like a component you have to consider. Because when you're going to the NBA, you don't think about that. Like everybody has their own facility. So it's like for them, a draw being we have our own facility that's ours. We don't have to share it. We don't have to like, we don't have our own weight room. So I think that's really amazing. So I think they're already off to a good foot because I think just from the press conference, I can see the cohesion is going to be there because they want to be there. They've been through a lot. Some of them been through a lot. And I think they might be neck and neck with the Aces and the Liberty because I think they just have that desire to win. And NECA, I think, is such like that grounding because she's won and she's had that. I feel like she has that wisdom and she has that experience. So I think that if they can just figure out like how to flow with each other, I think they could be up there with everybody else because they have those components that the other teams have. They have shooters, they have experience, and and they have defense. They have like defensively minded players. So if the young guns on the Storm can gather and follow suit, I think that they can be competing with the Aces and Liberty. But it's all dependent upon their cohesion and if the supporting cast can kind of get it together quick.
And it's also dependent on Neko Kuma's health because let's not forget, during the last 3 years playing for Los Angeles Sparks, he was dealing with like a couple of injuries. So that's another thing that you need to be consider. You need to consider. And but at least they have that girl, that young lady, as he Magabord. But like she needs to like excel more than just being a low post scorer and a mid range shooter. That's something that you need. That's something that you need to take into consideration for the Seattle Storm before they get back to be the championship pedigree that they've had with Brandon Stewart and Sue Bird was there. Right. But it's a recovery process. That's the whole purpose of rebuilding. Like when one era ends, you work your way towards being a championship tier team with another group of star players. I mean, right. You can build around it. They literally build around her big time.
Yeah, I think this is a good start. It's a good start, and I think that they all want to be there, and they all kind of don't have ego. So I think once you get a team that doesn't have ego from the rip, I think that's already a good start.
Yeah. Now I want to transition to the NBA All-Star Weekend, and it was kind of, I can't even put it into words. It just wasn't that great. Sarina Ionescu versus Stephen Curry stole the show, and I told people Stephen Curry was going to beat Sarina Ionescu with the 3-point challenge. I told people that, and I was right. That was pretty much the only highlight of that contest. I mean, the celebrity game was it was all right. Good to see Team Shane outlast Team Stephen A. The little tournament that happened in the Rising Stars was passable. The 3-point challenge, well, Sarina Ionescu did just as good as all 6 guys in the 3-point challenge, if not more. And then the dunk contest, don't even get me started. A G League player won 2 years in a row. I'll give him credit for that, but yeah. As we get to the All-Star game, it feels like yesterday there was there was just no defensive cohesion whatsoever in the NBA All-Star game. Like remember 20 years ago when it was back and forth between Stephon Marbury, Jersey Days, New Jersey Nets, and Kobe Bryant, may God rest his soul. I believe it was 2002, 03, somewhere around those realms. Remember that? It was like the East won like 111 to 110. It's not.
I don't remember that. I was kind of young, but like I watched highlights and I saw that. So yeah.
At least you've seen highlights. I mean, there was a lot. I mean, back in 2000s and early 2010s, there was more close games. There's more defense between all-star teams. Right now, it's like, and even years ago, when they did that little target score in the fourth quarter to honor Kobe Bryant, where a team scored 24 on top of the 20 total wins, that even that was more intense than what I saw the other day. I mean, the West gave up 211 points.
Yeah, that was.
More, but it's a rhetorical question, but it was obviously more about not enough defense as opposed to better scoring.
I just think they don't care. They want the accolade of saying I'm an all-star. They want that like on their resume, like I'm a 5-time all-star, 2-time all-star, whatever. But I don't think they care that much because it's like, what is their reason to care? I think like the mystique and the honor of being an all-star and playing well and competing is just not there. And don't even get me started on Kenny Smith. Like I lost all respect for him as a commentator after what he said.
About Sarina Ionescu.
Yeah. Like people were talking about what he was saying for the other competitions. I wasn't even paying attention. When I watched that competition between Steph and Sabrina, which was like the highlight of the All-Star weekend, and like for her to make, I just want to say this, for her to get 26 points, which is what Dame got to win his competition, better than most of the guys that competed because Dame won with 26 and Sabrina got 26, only 3 points away from Steph, who's the greatest shooter ever. And after she does that, the first thing out of his mouth is she should have shot from the women's line. She has a lighter ball. It's not fair. I'm sorry, but that's my opinion. Oh, all this stuff. Like
the W is real. Like seriously.
I'm like, yo, like, are you? My thing is, after she does all that, that is your first response. She just scored what the men scored to win the 3-point competition. She just scored that on a first try. That's what she scored. She didn't have like chances to build up to 26 like the rest, like Dame did. He had rounds to get to 26. This is a first round one-off, and she made 26. And you talk about the ball, and she shot from the men's 3-point line. Why? So what are you trying to say? Like if she would have shot from the women's line, then she would have done better. She literally got what the men got to win the competition. Steph is the greatest shooter ever, and he only had 3 more points than her. So what are you talking about? But it's like to take that moment to undermine her accomplishment just because she's a woman, just because she used a lighter ball as soon as she does it. Like as soon as she got done her round, that's the first thing he said. It's like, why did you have to do that? Why couldn't you say, wow, Sabrina, that's amazing. Like you made just as much as Dame did. Like, just like acknowledge, but you want to put down and undermine what she did. And honestly, for me, it just shows you why these trolls and these guys and just people who look down on women's basketball, who always has something negative to say, it gives fuel to the fire. Because this is just fueling their point that women's basketball isn't valid. Women's basketball, oh, well, like I seen in the comments on the competition, oh, well, if other WNBA players came back next year to do this, it wouldn't be as competitive. They can't shoot. Like just all this craziness. And then talking about the ball. Who gives a damn what ball she uses? Men and women, hey guys, newsflash everyone, men and women will never be physically on the same level. That will never happen. So why can't men use the ball that they use for their league and women use the ball? Why does a woman have to be exactly like a man to be valid? Why does a woman have to meet a man's standard to be valid as a shooter, as a player? Why is a man's standard the standard? Like, that's what he was saying, basically. And let me just say this. I'm sure every woman in the WNBA grew up playing with the man's ball. Like,
exactly.
Stop it. Like, she can't shoot. But she uses the ball that the WNBA, the National Basketball Association for Women, says that they're going to use. That's their ball. What's your problem? But for him to undermine her in that way on national TV when she just did something that was amazing for basketball, and that's the first thing out of his mouth was something negative to put her down, that just showed me this is why these people think they have a right to talk about women's basketball. Because Kenny Smith, who played in the NBA, wasn't even him in the NBA, his first comment is to put her down. So why wouldn't everybody else do it? And it was really disheartening to see that. And it made me lose all respect for him as a commentator. That's not cool. Like even Reggie was like, why, don't put her in a box. Like Sabrina, no one's gonna know, like, don't let people put you in a box. And it was really disheartening to see that. So it was an amazing competition. I loved it. I hope they bring it back next year in whatever capacity. And I think they should bring the women more into the NBA All-Star. Like, I think they should make it a combo thing. Like, one day you have skills challenge with men and women, and then you have the 3-point contest, men and
Man, you
women.
know what? They did have the hiring shooting stars like way back in the 2000s. You remember those days where you had WNBA players compete against older NBA players, and current NBA players in the shooting stars challenge that they used to have back in the 2000s. So the WNBA has been involved in the All-Star game. Are we just gonna forget that?
They should.
Or you're just gonna forget the fact that you had WNBA players playing in a celebrity game like not just recently, but in older years? Like, you can't dismiss that. You can't. If you can shoot, you can shoot. I've been following Sarina Ionescu ever since like a very last. I've acknowledged Sarina Ionescu's game ever since her last year in Oregon, where she had all those all-time stats, like most points, assists, and rebounds to finish off her career at Oregon. I mean, it sucks that she didn't get to play in the tournament because of that COVID crisis that happened that shut down March Madness for 2020. But that's besides the point. Sarina Ionescu is a phenomenal athlete. And this is the same Sarina Ionescu who when I spoke to her during during the finals last year, with not shooting around in the media scrums after the winning game 3, that she's a pass first point guard. Or she's shown more to be a shooter as well as a pass first point guard.
Right. And it just really killed me that people can't just accept that she's a great shooter in her own right. Like, stop saying that women have to be exactly like men to be great. That's never going to happen. Men and women are not going to be the same, but it's about being fair across the board. I'm talking about this money thing. It's just about being fair for, like, it really just kills me, because it's like, stop measuring women that they have to be like men. Women are not men.
Be themselves.
Women, right. But women have, like, but they're great shooters. They're great athletes. They're great players. All these men talking all this talk. Play Sarina Ionescu 1-on-1. You shoot out against Sarina Ionescu, she will torch you and she will use the men's ball. I bet you. Like, stop it. Play Natasha Cloud 1-on-1. She probably gonna smoke you. I bet you. Play Chelsea Gray 1-on-1. She gonna smoke you. Play Asia Wilson. Please play Asia Wilson. Please play Asia Wilson so she can smoke you. Like, stop it. These men that like talk all this crazy talk, like, oh, they could play a high school men's basketball team and they'll get smoked. What are you talking about? Like, if you want, of course, if you got a man that's like, AD size going up against a smaller center in the WNBA, obviously physicality, AD going body, he's physically bigger. That's just science, people. Let's be smart here. But when you're talking about skills, you're talking about, IQ, stop acting like if women are not men, they're not great. They're not a man, bruh. Like, get it in your head. They're not men. They never will be. They don't want to be. But stop downplaying stop downplaying their athleticism and their accolades as players, because they're not men. They're not men. They're never gonna be a man. They don't
need to be. They don't need to be. And you know what? I've watched women play with men in celebrity games, in charity games, like years ago, like a covered ball for peace. There were women playing with men. You don't have to do it just to be to like your basketball talent. If you blow me away with 30 balls and 40 balls, I'm gonna watch you. I'm gonna spend my money. I'm gonna spend my money, or I'm gonna cover you. Like, seriously. This comes from somebody that's been covering W since 2020 on this platform.
Right, yeah. And I think with the All-Star game, just to wrap up your point, I think they should make it back to like the 1st to 24 in the 4th quarter. Maybe have like international versus USA, like world versus USA again. That'd be cool. Or, just kind of like just change, what the incentives are. Not give them too much money, because it's an honor to be an All-Star to me. But I think they got to just change around the rules to make it more competitive. Definitely, I think the 1st to 24 will make it competitive, because this game scoring 211 points, like, that's wild. No one was playing defense. They were just chucking up threes, trying to make the game MVP.
Exactly. Exactly.
It was boring. But I think if they make it more, like pride, like, yo, first to 24, like just kind of change, like, or like we were saying, like whoever wins in the West or the East gets like home court advantage in the finals or something. That'd be cool. Like, just like give them something to play for.
Baseball World Series, like it used to be, where the winner of that league automatically gets home field advantage in the World Series. It's not like that anymore.
Yeah, I think something like that would help, because right now,
You know something else? And you know something? Since they want to create the whole narrative that women can't be as good as men, or women needs to be men, well, how about some of the best 12 WNBA players versus the best 12 NBA players in NBA All-Star break?
Yeah.
An NBA All-Star game somewhere, if not next year, somewhere in the near future. They will
Yeah.
they will get to see the battle of the sexes. We already saw a battle of sexes between Sarina Ionescu and Stephen Curry. Why not bring that to the All-Star game?
Or like mix it up, like have like 12 and 12, but mix it up. Like have like 2 women point guards play against each other. You know what I mean? Like mix up the sexes in the game. Like have it like that. Like match up. Like if there's a woman center in, there's a woman center for the other side. You know what I mean? Like just match up men and women playing together, because they're all professional and basketball players. Why not? Like WNBA is in its infancy in terms of its life. It's only like 30 something years old. So basically 30. I think like 30. No. I think it's like 28 or 20, no, 27. I know like 27. So they're going to be 30. So there's still a very young league. And the comparison between a 28-year-old versus a 80-year-old pretty much in the NBA, 75, whatever, 77. It's like, how can you compare the two? It's like a baby and a grandparent. Like, you can't compare the popularity. You can't compare like where they're at, because they just started out, but they've made great strides. But it's like, it just kills me, because I feel like their attitude towards the WNBA and towards their play, towards their players, towards their just for them existing. It's like, why can't they just exist in their lane and be great? Why is there a comparison always to the men? They're not as good as men. They're not going to play up against men. I bet you they can't beat a man. Why is that the standard of how they're judged by if up against men? Why? It's just, I think it shows the true nature of society and how far we have come, but how far we need to go. Because it's like, why is that the standard? That women who give life, are the value of them is based upon how they measure up to the physicality and the skill sets of a man. That's insane.
Yep, that's insane. Now, I want to transition real quick to, well, we're about to start the second half of the season. Like, and there's a reason why you gave me the categories that we talked about, that we're about to talk about off the air. And like, why don't you tell me your coach of the year so far?
Probably the coach of the Thunder, Mark Daigneault. I think he's really good. He's a young guy. He's like 38, and what he's doing with the young team like the Thunder, I think is impressive. Them being like second in the West right now, and just playing with no vets, like all young guys. Like obviously he has like an MVP in Shea, but just what he's been able to do in terms of them and like their defensive schemes and them not wanting to give up certain things. Like I've watched some of his interviews and he talks about like, you know, we're going to have to give up something on the offensive end, but there's something we won't give up. Like we'll give up little jumpers, but we won't give up like strides to the basket. Cause he's like, strides to the basket, you're going to get those jumpers. It's hit or miss. So it's like, he has a good mindset. I think he has a good strategy in terms of like how he handles the team and, you know, just the way that culture is. They seem just to want to play and everyone's excited and playing well together. I think that's a testament to him and him being a younger coach. I feel like it's just really impressive because the Thunder, you know, they don't have any vet leadership and they're really playing well still. So I would say the Thunder coach.
Yeah, I gotta give the Thunder credit where credit is due. I didn't expect it to be this good. I mean, I expected it to be good, but I didn't think they were going to be like a top 4-tier team.
Right.
When you led by Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, a guy who's shoot threes for like the parking lot, you're going places. And then you tie in their number one pick in Chad Holmgren, who missed the entire season due to injury. The fact that he's able to sell himself in the Thunder's this offense so quickly, I gotta give credit where credit is due to OKC. They're doing their thing. But for me, the coach of the year, I mean, it's probably a tie between Joe Mazzulla of the Boston Celtics and this guy, Chris French of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Like, come on now. Anytime when you have you only have like a few home losses, since you're going places with the Boston Celtics, and talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves, who last year only got one game for the eventual NBA champion Denver Nuggets. The way that he managed to coach Minnesota to the best season since their 2004 Western Conference championship run, where they ran to a better Kobe Bryant and Shaq-led Los Angeles Lakers. Minnesota is building something.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Minnesota's doing great this year. I think everyone's just looking for them, how they're going to be in the playoffs. But to have like a gun, like a true star in Ant, and then obviously Cat, he's, diverse in terms of his play, him being an amazing three-point shooter, as we're seeing, he can shoot the three. Mike Conley, Rudy Gobert. I just think the Timberwolves are really playing well. But I'm just so high on OKC because they just are so young. Like, they just don't have any experience. Minnesota, they got a little experience now, besides Ant. They have some experience. But Minnesota is great. And the Celtics, obviously they're balling. But the Celtics always ball in the regular season. Again, it's going to be the playoff run. That's how they're going to be judged, unfortunately. Tatum's having an amazing season. Tatum is one of my greatest heartbreaks as someone who watches the Sixers, because he could have been a Sixer, and it really makes me sick that he's a Celtic. But he played great. He plays great. And with the add in of Porzingis, I think he really played well for them. And then, people might not know this, but they just picked up Jaden Springer from the Sixers. And even though obviously he's a young guy, he's a great defender. He's very gritty. And I think they just keep adding competent pieces to their roster. They added that guy from Memphis who's a decent, kind of 4 or 5 guy. They just keep adding solid people to play their roles. And the Celtics are great at that. They're great at just knowing exactly what they need and getting that no matter how it looks. So they're not worried about the names. They're worried about what components, what characteristics do these players have to add to what we're trying to do. They don't care about names. They just care about how you play, and they're really good at scouting. So the Celtics are playing well, and it's not a surprise.
Yeah, not surprised indeed. I mean, the Celtics have been contenders even before Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown came into the league. And let's not forget, they were in the college finals, duke out with LeBron's Cavaliers in their first season in the league. And the fact that they managed to at least get to the second round of conference finals the majority of his career here, and have one finals appearance in his pocket. Jason Tatum, eventually a championship is bound to happen. And not too many months ago, before he came on the air, I had my finals prediction being between the Boston Celtics and the Minnesota Timberwolves. If it's not going to be the New York Knicks, because the Knicks are literally closing in on championship primacy, it's going to go down between the Boston Celtics and the Minnesota Timberwolves. It's about that time. It's just about that time. Okay, that's fair. I mean, I think, are we talking about finals predictions right now? Finals predictions as far as who you think's gonna do? Which two these things gonna duke it out for the championship in June? I mean, I want to say the Sixers, but I'm just highly, highly skeptical right now. But I guess the Celtics. If you look at it right now, the Celtics have the best chance because the Bucks. Doc is their coach now, and I've I've watched Doc's career, and not saying he hasn't had a great career, but the way Doc coaches and how things are going for how things are going for the Bucks right now. I don't know if they're going to make it to the finals with their new coach and the whole thing they got going. I think they're not talented, but we'll see how the second half for them goes. But I think as of right now, before any game has been played since All-Star, obviously the Celtics are the front runners in the East. And in the West is more of a toss-up. It always is. The Suns have been surging, the Clippers, but the Clippers, they be clipping. So who knows how they're going to do in the playoffs. But I think the safest bet, will either be the Nuggets, because they just have the championship caliber. Or, I guess you could say the Timberwolves because they're number one. But I really think it's going to be the Nuggets. The Nuggets and the Celtics, if anything. If things kind of trend the way they're trending. Even though the Nuggets are 4th right now in the West, they kind of they're pacing themselves. So I think that it might be the Nuggets and the Celtics. Yeah, that's a very good matchup. I mean, the Nuggets did win it all last year, but that's only if the Nuggets can get into the top spot in the Western Conference, because it's going to be very difficult when you got the Clippers finally starting to gel after their struggles following the James Harden trade, and then of course the Minnesota Timberwolves and OKC Thunder. Let's not and how we know that LeBron's not going to make a surprise run to the conference finals was
Yeah.
after winning a play-in tournament game against the Minnesota Timberwolves last year, getting to the conference finals. The guy is almost 40 years old, and he's still balling out of his mind because it's LeBron James.
Right. And I don't think you can really, I don't think standings matter that much unless you're like the first and the eighth. Like, I think it doesn't really matter. Like, everything in between, I think it's like a free for all. Like, it all depends on like how you're playing when you get up to the playoffs and the kind of the matchup component and how you're coached. I think that's what matters when it comes to the playoffs. Like, the only big difference is going to be the first and the eighth seed. Like, all the rest of them could kind of compete with each other and it will be a toss up for the most part. So I think it doesn't matter if the Nuggets are number one or not. I think whoever they play, like, they're probably gonna like, probably gonna skate them. It's gonna be competitive, but they're gonna win. So I'm not like, I think as long as the Nuggets make it into the playoffs, I think they're gonna beat whoever they play and just make it to the championship.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, why don't you give me like your rookie of the year in 2024 so far?
I mean, honestly, it has to be Wemby. I mean, I hate to have like an answer everyone says, but if you just look at stats, like Wemby right now is 20 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists. He's averaging.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and then Chet.
He dunks without having to. He doesn't even have to jump too much just to do a dunk.
I mean, he's super big. He's super long. I mean, he's way bigger than Shaq. Like, he's huge. And then Chet from OKC, he's averaging 16.7 rebounds. And then you talk about like Jaime Jaquez, who's playing really well for the Heat, but he doesn't start. So I think out of like true starter of rookies, Wemby and Chet, it has to be Wemby because Wemby's playing for like a crappy team. And like he shines every game. And he's kind of pushing them. Not saying they're gonna contend because they're not, but at least they're kind of like they got a little life. They're not like Pistons level. So it's like, I think Wemby is making the most difference on his team. I'm not saying Chet isn't, but he's on a winning team. Like, he has like an MVP possible candidate in Shea. Like, Chet, he's obviously a big contributor, but he has a lot of people ahead of him, 2 people ahead of him that are balling. So I think Wemby, he's like the guy. Like, they got they got a couple people on the Spurs that are decent, but Wemby is just carrying them. So it has to be Wemby.
Yeah, I mean, Wemby, it's going to be tough. I would pick Victor Wembanyama, but let's not forget the Spurs are not that good. The Spurs are not that good right now.
But they're not that good. But look at who they have and look of what they're in the West. And even though they're not doing that good right now, like if you watch their games, like the games are like pretty competitive. Not like obviously sometimes they get like they kind of lose it towards the end, but like they put up a little fight, and then just his individual play, he's carrying them.
That's a very interesting point. Now we get to the NBA MVP, and I'm picking. You know what? My safe bet is Jason Tatum, without question. I could pick Nikola Jokic, but Nikola Jokic has won a few times already, and I don't know how they're going to finish, considering how unpredictable the 1 through 4 spots in the West is. So I'm going to pick Jason Tatum as my MVP at this point in the season so far. And he's carried the Boston Celtics to the best record in the NBA.
I'm gonna have to maybe go with Shea. He's averaging 31 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. For a really young, inexperienced team, I think that he always comes through with a bucket for them. And I'm not saying Tatum isn't, but it's just like most valuable player in the league. You can't just say, because it's like, what are the criteria of what makes someone the most valuable player? Like, are they on a winning team? A lot of people say, are they on a winning team? What is his direct influence on the team? Does he make people better? Like, what is his averages? What are his numbers? Blah, blah, blah. But with Shea, obviously he's averaging really great points, but he's on such a young team and they have no experience whatsoever. And I feel like he's always a bucket and he always makes like calm, cool decisions. I think with Tatum, he obviously is the leader. He's the number 1 option on the team. But if you watch him, and I think he's great, and I wouldn't mind him being a Sixer. Keep it a bean. I'm not gonna talk bad about him. I always like talk good about Jason Tatum. But I think with him, sometimes it can be kind of like the consistency isn't always there. And I think with Shea, he has to be consistent because they just need him to not that he carries them because they have Jalen Williams, who's a baller. But I just think the sense of urgency with OKC is just there. And I think Shea is just leading that hunt. I think the Celtics are kind of like, they're dominating, but when they're off, it's like it really shows like the parts that you can like pinpoint as like a weakness with them. But OKC, they're just a young team. So
Yeah, it all comes down. I mean, the second half. I mean, well, NBA is crazy, basketball is crazy. The second half is going to be something else. I mean, our narrative's going to change by the time we get to the NBA playoffs. But I mean, with the New York Knicks on the rise, even though they kind of lost 5 of the last 6, but they got hit with an injury bug. You know, soon Julius Randle's going to come back. OJ Anoa'i, who they traded, mid-season, is going to come back. I mean, Jalen Brunson's proven everybody wrong as an NBA All-Star. When he came into the New York Knicks, nobody really thought he was going to be any great, just good little greats. Now,
I mean, it just shows you, you know,
for at least a conference finals appearance.
I mean, it just shows you that, you know, opportunity, you know, brings opportunity makes people shine pretty much. And I think Brunson got the opportunity to shine and he's shining. And he's from Nova, like he played for Nova. Like I knew he had that championship mentality. He just needed the platform. But I didn't think he was gonna be as good as he is right now. I knew he was always gonna be like a strong role player. But for him to be as good as he's been, he just got the opportunity and he's just taking it. And I think it's great. I'm really happy for the Knicks. I know they've struggled. So I think the Knicks having someone like Brunson who has the foundation of like that strong fundamentals guy, someone who plays defense, someone who can get his own shot for the most part. I mean, obviously people say, Brunson needs a screen to be great, quote unquote. I don't agree with that. I think Brunson can get a shot regardless of a screen. But it's just great to see that for the Knicks. They need it.
Yeah, they really need it indeed. Well, that wraps up this episode. Nothing but that sports talk. Thank you so much for stopping by, Carmen. I mean, it's really fun talking basketball with you, and I can't wait to have you back as we get through March Madness, the WNBA draft, and the playoffs itself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And, feel free to follow me on my Instagram and YouTube at @so_Carm. And yeah, I'm happy to be here and we're happy to come back.
Yeah, and I'm glad. Yeah, and don't forget to follow Nothing But That Sports Talk on my YouTube channel, Nothing But That Sports Talk by Rafiq Luzon, and my Instagram, Rafiq_Louis BK. For Carmen Holland of Hoops with Carmen, Rafiq Luzon. We'll see you next time.
Bye.